The Senate has released its bipartisan gun bill, which doesn't do nearly enough to regulate guns, which are easily available in this country, but is a first step in addressing red flag laws and some enhanced background checks specifically for gun purchasers under the age of 21. So senators working on this bipartisan gun safety bill following a spate of mass shootings, which happen regularly in this country, released the bill on Tuesday, meaning this evening. The bill, which was drafted by 10 Republicans and 10 Democrats, focuses on red flag laws and these enhanced background checks for younger gun buyers. It also focuses on closing something known as the boyfriend loophole. So if you are someone who's married, for instance, and you are convicted of some sort of domestic violence issue, well, there are laws that make it difficult for you to purchase a gun. However, that did not extend to a boyfriend or someone who was not married to the person who was victimized in the domestic dispute. So this legislation is supposed to close that loophole. Now, if the bill becomes law, people who attempt to buy firearms under the age of 21 might be subject to juvenile background checks. But juvenile records, as you guys probably know, are generally sealed. But the text of the legislation says that some might be requested to look for, quote, disqualifying conduct for prospective gun buyers. Additionally, states will be offered grants to enact red flag laws should they choose to, but they are not in any way forced to do so by this legislation. So if you're a state with red flag laws, you might get some funding, but that's about it. And honestly, those are the major provisions that are being reported on in this bipartisan gun bill. In my opinion, and this is just my analysis for now, something else might develop. I feel like this is just an effort to kind of get people to shut up, right? Here you are, we did something, it's not nearly enough. It doesn't close the gun show loophole, right? It doesn't implement federal red flag laws. I mean, there are so many other components that were completely ignored in this legislation, but people have been outraged following what happened in Buffalo and Uvalde. And so since that story isn't going away, they gotta do something. They gotta get people off their backs. So I think that's what they're doing here with this proposed legislation.
Yeah, this you nailed it. This feels like the ultimate. Here, take it. All right, here's anything. Get out of here. Get off of my back. I'm done with you. And I think part of it too is that like this footage of police being scared to run up in there, and it's like, all right, so police is scared as hell to run up in there. It's like 10 of them, and they're scared to face this one dude down with a gun. What are just defenseless children, bystanders supposed to be able to do with this kind of thing? Like, I feel like the shamefulness of it all is like all of this, well, the good guys with the guns are gonna save everything and this just to proliferate more guns. And it's like, that's not how these things work in reality, man. And the best thing that could happen is to keep these weapons out of the hands of people who would carry out this type of thing. But again, like we don't have our mental health infrastructure in line in this country. We don't take care of people. And so we're a country who produces the kinds of people who wanna go out and shoot 30, 40 people at a time. Messed up as it sounds, that's just the facts. There's just no other way to put it. This is the type of country we are.
Yeah, you made so many great points there because every scapegoat, every talking point that we typically hear about in response to a mass shooting was debunked with what happened in Uvalde, right? Oh, you gotta have school police. They had school police. Oh, well, if you had a good guy with a gun, they could stop the bad guy with a gun. A lot of alleged good guys with guns, meaning the cops, they were there from the very beginning, and they didn't stop the shooter for over an hour. You need to have security measures on campus. And they had some security measures, but those security measures failed. Namely the classroom door, like not locking, even though it was supposed to lock automatically. Everything that gun advocates purport would stop the gun violence was just debunked through this shooting. Go ahead, Was.
No, and I want people to understand too, Like it's worth mentioning because we sort of flatten the gun issue when we're talking about it in the country, and it's important for people to understand like those cops in the middle of nowhere, Texas, are not the NYPD, right? Like the NYPD is an occupying force. That thing is like a mini army in how militarized it is. And I'm not saying we should have NYPD everywhere. I'm just telling you, like, there's a difference between the capabilities and what you can do with your police force in these kinds of situations. When you compare NYPD, who's like, I think at last count is like 40,000 people on the force. 40,000 people.
That's insane.
In the New York City Police Department, okay, 32,000 in uniform, and so it's just a difference in what type of policing can be done when you have that level of force. And again, just a bunch of dudes taking the best job that they probably could get in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and some real shit happened. And it was like, hold up now, I ain't signed up for all of this, even if I do have a gun myself.
Yeah, and then the final thing I'll say is, look, what you'll also hear from gun advocates is that anyone who wants common sense gun regulation just wants to take away all guns from law-abiding citizens. And look, I understand the frustration that someone might feel. Would that be the end of the world?
I mean,
Look,
I wonder.
I'm in favor of people. I'm in favor of people who are law-abiding citizens being able to access guns, like not weapons of war.
Way harder.
Yeah, I agree. Exactly. So I'm in favor of having a gun for self-defense. I just am, and I have no problem undergoing extensive background checks. I'll wait a month if I have to. I don't care if it means that it'll be harder for the bad guys to get guns, I'll do it. And I understand the frustration that law-abiding citizens might feel if they're inconvenienced a little bit. But think about what the trade-off is. Sure, you might be inconvenienced a little bit, but the possibility of little kids getting gunned down in their 4th grade classroom is minimized when we have common sense gun legislation, right? But that is not the take that really dominates most of the discussion, right? You got like the extremes, and I think anytime you have the extremes debating an issue, you usually get nowhere. And the answer isn't what we're seeing from this Senate proposal, which is just like, it's like putting a glossy cover over like the worst book on the planet. Like it's not gonna do anything. But at the same time, I do think that there's a way to allow for people to purchase guns legally because they're law-abiding citizens, whether it's for protection or for hunting, and have the common sense regulations on the books. I mean, we have regulations for everything else. I don't see why it's a problem to have these regulations for guns.
Annie, you said 21 years old when you were talking about something earlier, and I was reminded that you barely couldn't even rent a car from Hertz before age of 25. Like Hertz wouldn't give you a Passat unless you were 25 years old. But yet, like it's just like, yo, take a gun. I don't care. Go ahead, do it. Do whatever you want with it. Like it just doesn't. It don't make no sense. It makes no sense. It just makes no sense.
It makes no sense. I agree with you on that.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.